Hello everyone, welcome to the session. Myself N. Gopinath, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Sri Sai Ram Engineering College, Chennai. In this session, we are going to see about the topics called humans and I/O channels. These topics were considered as one of the important foundations of HCI. Come on, let us see in detail. In this slide, the diagram gives an idea about the I/O channels, that is, input and output channels associated with the human. Let us see in detail about the humans and I/O channels in the upcoming slides. The human. Humans are limited in their capacity to process information. This has important implications for design. Information is received and responses given via a number of input and output channels like visual channel, auditory channel, haptic channel that is related to sense of touch, and the fourth one is movement. Information is stored in memory. The memories are of three types. The first one is a sensory memory. Second one is a short-term or working memory, and the third one is a long-term memory. Information is processed and applied for reasoning purpose, problem solving, skill acquisition, and for solving the errors. Emotion influences human capabilities. Users share common capabilities but are individuals with differences which should not be ignored. That is very important. Then we will move on to the next slide, that is input and output channels. A person's interaction with the outside world occurs through information being received and sent. Normally, we used to call it as input and output. In an interaction with the computer, the user receives information that is output by the computer and responds by providing input to the computer. The user's output becomes the computer's input and vice versa. There are five major senses, namely sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Of these, the first three are the most important to HCI. Taste and smell do not currently play any significant role in HCI, and it is not clear whether they could be exploited at all in general computer science, although they could have a role to play in more specialized systems or in augmented reality systems. Vision, hearing, and touch are central. There are a number of effectors, including limbs, fingers, eyes, heads, and opal system. In the interaction with the computer, the finger play the primary role through typing or mouse control, with some use of voice and eye, head, and body position. Let us see one example. Imagine using a personal computer with a mouse and a keyboard. The application you are using has a graphical interface with menus, icons, and windows. In your interaction with this system, you receive information primarily by sight from what appears on the screen. However, you may also receive information by ear also. For example, the computer may beep at you if you make a mistake or to draw attention to something, or there may be a voice commentary in a multimedia presentation. Touch plays a part in that you will feel like the keys moving or orientation of the mouse, which provides vital feedback about what you have done. You yourself send information to computer using your hands, either by hitting keys or moving the mouse. Sight and hearing do not play a direct role in sending information in this kind of example, although they may be used to receive information from a third source, for example, a book or the words of another person, which is then transmitted to the computer. Let us move on to the next part, that is vision. Human vision is a highly complex activity with a range of physical and perceptual. Limitations. We can roughly divide visual perception into two stages. The first one is the physical reception of the stimulus from the outside world and the process and interpretation of that stimulus. On the other hand, the physical properties of the eye and the visual system mean that there are certain things that cannot be seen by the human. On the other, the interpretative capabilities of visual processing allow images to be constructed from incomplete information. Let us see in detail about the human eye. Vision begins with the light. The eye is a mechanism for receiving light and transforming it into electrical energy. Light is reflected from objects in the world and the image is focused upside down on the back of the eye. The receptors in the eye transform it into electrical signals which are passed to the brain. The eye has a number of important components. The cornea and lens at the front of the eye focus the light into a sharp image on the back of the eye, the retina. The retina is light sensitive and contains two types of photoreceptor, namely rods and cones. Rods are highly sensitive to light and therefore allow us to see under a low level illumination. They are unable to resolve fine detail and are subject to light saturation. This is the reason for the temporary blindness we get when moving from a darkened room into sunlight. The rods have been active and are saturated by the sudden light. The cones do not operate either as they are suppressed by the rods. We are therefore temporarily unable to see at all. In the next slide, we will see about the diagrammatic representation of the human with its different components. So here is a diagrammatic representation which is having the different components which are present in our human eye. Next one is the visual perception. The information received by the visual apparatus must be filtered and passed to processing elements, which allow us to recognize coherent scenes, disambiguate relative distance, and differentiate color. How does the eye perceive size, depth, and relative distance? To understand this, we must consider how the image appears on the retina. Reflected light from the object forms an upside down image on the retina. The size of the image is specified as a visual angle. The figure given here illustrates how the visual angle is calculated. If we are drawing a line from the top of the object to a central point on the front of the eye and a second line from the bottom of the object to the same point, the visual angle of the object is the angle between these two top and bottom lines. Visual angle is affected by both the size of the object and its distance from the eye. Therefore, if two objects are at the same distance, the larger one will have a large visual angle. Similarly, if two objects of the same size are placed at different distances from the eye, the furthest one will have the smaller visual angle. The visual angle indicates how much of the field of view is taken by the object. Next, we will move on to the perceiving brightness and colors. Interpreting the signal, that is how the brightness is perceived. An aspect of visual perception is the perception of brightness. Brightness is in fact a subjective reaction to levels of light. It is affected by luminance, which is the amount of light emitted by an object. The luminance of an object is dependent on the amount of light falling on the object's surface and its reflective properties. Luminance is a physical characteristic and can be measured using a photometer. Contrast is related to luminance. It is a function of the luminance of an object and the luminance of its background. Next, we will see about the perceiving color. A third factor that we need to consider is perception of color. Color is usually regarded as being made up of three components, namely hue, intensity, and saturation. Let us see about these three components in detail. Hue is determined by the spectral wavelength of the light. Blues have short wavelength, green medium, and reds long. Approximately 150 different hues can be discriminated by the average person. Intensity is the brightness of the color, and whereas saturation is the amount of whiteness in the color. By varying these two, we can perceive in the region of 7 million different colors. Next, we will see about the capabilities and limitations of visual processing. Visual processing involves the transformation and interpretation of a complete image from the light that is thrown onto the retina. Visual processing compensates for the movement of the image on the retina, which occurs as we move around and as the object which we see moves. Although the retinal image is moving, the image that we perceive is stable. Similarly, color and brightness of objects are perceived as constant in spite of changes in luminance. This ability of interpret and exploit our expectations can be used to resolve ambiguity. For example, consider the image shown in the figure is an ambiguous shape. Now, consider the figure shown below. The context in which the object appears allows our expectations to clearly disambiguate the interpretation of the object as either a capital B or a number 13. Consider figure below given. In that figure, can you guess which line is longer? Most people, when presented with this, will say that the top line is longer than the bottom. In fact, the two lines are the same length. This may be due to a false application of the law of sine constancy. The top line appears like a concave edge, the bottom like a convex edge. Similar illusion is a Ponzo illusion. Here, the top line appears longer owing to the distance effect. Although both lines are the same length, these illusions demonstrate that our perception of size is not completely reliable. Next, we will move into the reading part. Reading. There are several stages in the reading process. First, the visual pattern of the word on the page is perceived. It is then decoded with reference to an internal representation of language. The final stage of the language processing includes syntactic and semantic analysis and operate on phrases or sentences. During reading, the eye makes some jerky movements called saccades, followed by fixation. Perception occurs during the fixation process, which accounts for approximately 94% of the time elapsed. The eye moves backward over the text as well as forwards in what are known as regressions. If the text is complex, there will be definitely more number of regressions. Adults read approximately 250 words a minute. It is unlikely that words are scanned serially, character by character, since experiments have shown that words can be recognized as quickly as single character. Instead, familiar words are recognized using word shape. Experimental evidence suggests that in practice, negative contrast displays are preferred and results in more accurate performance. In the next slide, the diagrammatic representation of the human ear is given with its different components for our reference. Hearing. The sense of hearing is often considered secondary to sight, but we tend to underestimate the amount of information that we receive through our ears. Hear begins with vibrations in the air or sound waves. The ear receives these vibrations and transmits them through various stages to the auditory nerves. The ear comprises three different sections commonly known as the outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. The outer ear is the visible part of the ear. It has two parts. The pinna, which is the structure that is attached to the sides of the head, and the auditory canal along which sound waves are passed to the middle ear. The outer ear serves two purposes. First, it protects the sensitive middle ear from damage. The auditory canal contains wax which prevents dust, dirt, and over inquisitive insects reaching the middle ear. It also maintains the middle ear at a constant temperature. Secondly, the pinna and auditory canal serve to amplify some sounds. The middle ear is a small cavity connected to the outer ear by the tympanic membrane or eardrum and to the inner ear of the cochlea. Within the cavity are the ossils, the smallest bone in the body. Sound waves pass along the auditory canal and vibrate the eardrum, which in turn vibrates the ossils, which transmit the vibrations to the cochlea and so into the inner ear. This relay is required because unlike the air-filled outer and middle ears, the inner ears is filled with the denser cochlear liquid. If passed directly from the air to the liquid, the transmission of the sound waves would be poor. By transmitting them via the oscillus, the sound waves are concentrated and amplified. Processing sound has a number of characteristics which we can differentiate. The first one is the pitch, which is the frequency of a sound. A low frequency produces a low pitch, whereas a high frequency produces a high pitch of sound. Loudness is proportional to the amplitude of the sound. The frequency remains constant. The next one is the timbre, relates to the type of sound. Sound may have the same pitch and loudness, but be made by different instruments and so vary in timbre. Next slide. The human ear can have frequencies range from 20 Hz to 15 kHz. It can distinguish frequency changes of less than 1.5 Hz at low frequency, but is less accurate at high frequencies. Different frequencies trigger activity in neurons in different parts of the auditory system and can cause different rates of firing of nerve impulses. The auditory system performs some filtering of the sounds received, allowing us to ignore background noise and concentrate on important information. The exception is multimedia, which may include music, voice, commentary, and sound effects. Next, we will move on to the touch. Touch provides us with the vital information about our environment. It tells us when we touch something hot or cold and can therefore act as a warning. It also provides us with feedback when we attempt to lift an object. For example, consider the act of picking up a glass of water. If we could only see the glass and not feel when our hand made contact with it or feel its shape, the speed and accuracy of the action would be reduced. This is the experience of user of certain virtual reality games. Touch is therefore an important means of feedback, and this is no less so in using computer systems. Feelings button depress is an important part of the task of pressing the button. Also, we should be aware that although for the average person, haptic perception is a secondary source of information for those whose other senses are impaired, it may be vitally important. For such users, interfaces such as Braille may be the primary source of information in the interaction. The apparatus of touch differs from that of sight and hearing in that it is not localized. The skin contains three types of sensory receptor, namely thermoreceptor, which is respond to heat and cold. Second one is nociceptor, responds to intense pressure, heat and pain. And the third one is mechanoreceptors, which is response to the pressure. Next, we will move on to the movement. A simple action such as hitting a button in response to a question involves a number of processing stages. The stimulus is received through the sensory receptor and transmitted to the brain. The question is processed and a valid response is generated. The brain then tells the appropriate muscles to respond. Each of these stages take time, which can be roughly divided into reaction time and the movement time. Movement time is dependent largely on the physical characteristics of the subjects, their age and fitness. For example, reaction time varies according to the sensory channel through which the stimulus is received. A person can react to an auditory signal in approximately 150 milliseconds, to a visual signal in 200 ms, and to a pain in 700 ms. Next, we will move on to the movement Fick's law. Speed and accuracy of movement are important considerations in the design of interactive systems, primarily in terms of the time taken to move to a particular target on a screen. The target may be a button, a menu item, or an icon. The time taken to hit a target is a function of the size of the target and the distance that has to be moved. This is formalized in Fick's law. There are many variations of this formula which have varying constants, but they are all very similar. One common form is movement time, mt, equal to a plus b log 2 distance divided by size plus 1, where a and b are empirically determined constants. Mt is defined as the movement time, capital D is the distance, and capital S is the size of the target. In order to get better performance or efficiency, we should remember one thing, that is, we should keep the target as large as possible and distance as small as possible. So up to this, we have seen about the human and its different input output channels like eye, ear, sense and movement with its some functionalities. In the upcoming sessions, we will discuss about the memory concepts in detail. Thank you. See you all again.